Lions Rock Productions.
This is Popping the Bubble with hosts Sandra Ponce de Leon and Pete A. Turner.
Hi, this is Nishit Pancholi, President and co-founder of JointechLabs. Welcome to the podcast Popping the Bubble.
Wonderful intro. Thank you, Nishit. It's so nice to meet you and find out a little bit about what you're doing, because we know it's revolutionary, as all the companies here at IndieBio are. Would love to just kind of hear a little bit about your founding story. What brought you here to IndieBio?
IndieBio is a platform for us where we can take the next step as a company to engross our technology out to people which we think can benefit from it. Mm-hmm. So this is a platform that we can use and are using right now to bring this forward to our customers would be eventually doctors, hospitals, clinics, and we want to kind of focus our energies towards bringing this to the market as soon as possible, and IndieBio is helping us towards in that direction.
Great. Well, let's talk a little bit about your company and that technology. JointechLabs, developer of MiniStem, a disposable closed-loop medical device platform. Tell us about that. What does that mean?
Sure. So MiniStem, if you've heard of stem cells, right?
Yes.
So far, stem cells have been in focus for a number of years, but as you can already tell, it's not translated into being part of standard clinical care. As of now, you cannot go to a doctor and ask for a stem cell injection, at least in the US. We are about to change that.
Really?
Right? So we have this device. It's practically a handheld device. It's a lab in your hands. What the device does is it actually processes tissue from your own body, which is fat tissue, and it can give you your own stem cells, practically at the doctor's office at the point of care. You don't need a lab setup, which until now you do need to process any kind of stem cells. But with this device, and that's why we call it MiniStem, because it's practically a lab in your hands. It's a closed-loop disposable system where the tissue processes within that system. So it's a sterile system. It doesn't need to kind of have a lab setup, right? So you can do everything. The processing goes on within that device.
I seem to recall a story about an athlete that was using stem cell that had actually ended his career previously and started to use stem cell therapy and was able to go back into the sport.
Absolutely. So stem cells have this property of regenerating tissues. And that's where stem cells have been in focus. But the unfortunate thing that has happened till now is that translation hasn't happened down to the clinic level. It's only superstars and sports people who can afford to get that kind of treatment within certain setups. But as I said, we are about to change that, and by introducing MiniStem into the market, each and at least potentially a lot of these doctors, I would say about 90% of doctors who want to practice regenerative medicine, they will be able to using MiniStem.
Give us an idea of what a person like me, who's not a superstar athlete, what am I going to go to the doctor and get a stem cell shot for?
Right. So the applications could be varied, but as of now, we're targeting applications in orthopedic injuries. Okay. So like osteoarthritis or any kind of soft tissue injuries, ACL tears, meniscal tears of that sort. Also, the applications are in the aesthetic realm, where they do a lot of fat grafting. So you can actually get fat grafts off of MiniStem. Also, aesthetic injectables. You must have heard of fillers, synthetic fillers and so on. But you can also use your stem cell injections to overcome the synthetic part, but do a more naturalized tissue. Use your own cells to get an aesthetic uplift. Also, wound healing is another aspect where there's chronic wounds that don't heal. That is one more application that you can go to the doctor. If you have a non-healing wound, they can extract your stem cells and apply the stem cells in that wound, and it does heal after that.
You had talked about potentially like an ACL tear. Are you saying that the injection would heal my torn ACL?
Absolutely. So again, it would take precedence over what your age and what is your healing capacity. Right? But definitely certain levels of tear can just be healed by stem cell injections. Definitely we would need some surgical suturing at that point. But the benefit of using stem cells is also along with surgeries, right? The efficacy is just that more when you're using stem cells within the surgical procedure itself.
So this would replace things like platelet injections on damaged tendons, possibly?
Absolutely. So you're talking about PRP, which is called as platelet-rich plasma. So that is at a very different level. Stem cells do much more than PRP, right? Because stem cells have the capacity to differentiate into different lineages of cells and tissues. So basically, yeah, stem cells have much more capacity than PRP.
Interesting. I mean, it sounds like stem cells are the miracle therapy. And possibly even preventative. Is there any? Should we just start injecting ourselves with stem cells on a regular basis?
I mean, that could be a potential. Stem cell banking would potentially be. As you're younger, your cells are more active, more energetic. So definitely, that's one thing that people have thought about. That can you bank your cells so that 20 years down the line, you might need, say, for an orthopedic indication, you just take the cells that are banked and use them, right? Because as you age, the cells mature too.
What a surprise. Your partner has something to say.
Absolutely.
Here we go. Let's hear it.
And introduce yourself,
Yeah, introduce
please.
yourself too, for sure.
Yes, hi, my name is Felix Pustilnikof. I'm the CEO and the co-founder of JointechLabs, and welcome to the podcast Popping the Bubble. So essentially, one of the scenarios to describe the preventive application of stem cells, if you look at the life cycle of the osteoarthritis patient, so the life cycle cost is about $140,000. That includes the consumption of painkillers, the steroid injections, and eventually the joint replacement. With the stem cell-based therapy, that can be addressed at the cost of $5,000 to $10,000. So if you compare the two, then you're addressing, number one, cost, number two, the period of time that the patient will be prospectively struggling with the carrying over the pain over many years. So the preventive aspect of the stem cell is that if at the time of the injury or the time of the degradation of tissue, cartilage tissue in this particular case, cell therapy can be applied, then that will prevent the entire cycle of patients struggling with many years of pain and eventually going through the joint knee replacement at the end of the cycle.
Is it when do you think it's going to be a replacement for the actual joint replacement? Is that time here upon us now, where this is a preferential treatment to something that's that invasive?
That can actually be done today. It all depending on how fast the regulatory aspect will be applied and cell therapies will be approved by the FDA. But if you address the issue with the cell therapy in the beginning of the cycle of issue being present, then you automatically will eliminate the milestone of having the joint replaced, period. So it's not whether or not the stem cell can be viewed as the alternative to the joint replacement at the point where the joint needs to be replaced. I think at that point, the only option will be to replace the joint because the tissue that needs to be regenerated will be completely gone. But if you provide the application of stem cells in the early cycle of the issue, then you will prevent the patient needing to go through the joint replacement.
And also, just to add to what Felix said, there is a huge gap, right? Say if a patient is, say, about in their 40s or even early 50s, there is a huge gap because they do not get implants until they're 60 plus years of age because of the fact that the implants last only a certain time. So there's a huge gap in that patient, getting either steroid shots or pain medications just to reach that 60 years of age so that he can get an implant done. So that gap can essentially be addressed by a stem cell injection. I mean, not saying that all people will prevent an implant being done on them, but there's a high chance that a lot of people will just, be pain-free for a number of years using the stem cell technology.
Right. And getting back to the regulatory environment with the FDA, because this was another thing I remember learning about this particular athlete, is that his doctor was performing these procedures on a regular basis and then eventually moved out to the Cayman Islands because it's not legal here. The FDA had categorized stem cells as a drug, right? And so that's why the FDA got involved.
Yeah, there's a new patent or new designation that's been recently proposed by FDA, which is called RMAT. Which stands for Regenerative Medicine Advanced Therapy. So that actually provides the fast pathway to the regulatory aspect. That's a part of the 21st Century Cure Act. Prospectively, that should simplify the regulatory process of the cell therapy. And if you look at Japan had actually at some point realized that since they have a very extensive population of what they call it here in the US baby boomers, in a late age group, citizens in a late age group. They've actually realized that the only way to provide the effective care is to utilize the regenerative medicine aspect. Because what they thought is that they will not have enough money to pay for the standard practice of care and treat their extended age population. So they've simplified down to the bone the process of acquiring the regulatory approval in Japan. So today, if you can show the positive safety data, then your product is given access to the market. So you can start selling the product to the patients for as long as you don't harm them. And that's what the safety data proves. And then you have 5 to 7 years to collect the efficacy data while selling your product on the market or offering your product to the patients. And if within that period of time you can collect enough efficacy data, then you are continuing to offer your product on the market. If you don't, then the government stops you and sends you back to collect that data. We do believe that in the US, the similar pattern is developing, because the beauty of cell therapy is not just the promising pathway on treating patients, but also the associated cost. Enormous amount of money is spent on the traditional way of treating patients today, but the population that is needing the medical care is expanding. So the pattern that we've seen developing is the search for optimized type of treatments that can treat the patient at the competitively lower cost.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it just makes sense that it would be a cheaper or less expensive therapy to apply versus getting a whole joint replacement.
Right. And also, as Felix was saying, the whole regulatory structure around, with the FDA, with the government, has been priming towards more alternative therapies because, of course, of the cost involved, as well as realizing the potential of what stem cells can do, right? That's why they brought this whole new act called as 21st Century Cures Act, which was released last year. And under that is the RMAT designation, which Felix mentioned about the regenerative medicine advanced therapies, where you can practically fast track any regenerative medicine application if you show that there is enough social burden and an unmet medical need. So that's where we are focusing on, that there's a lot of these, and you'll be surprised by what they mean by unmet medical need, right? It's not just people dying of cancers or stuff like that. There's a lot of unmet need, say in terms of opioid addictions for orthopedic conditions, right? There's a lot of people switching to opioids, taking opioids because they are living in pain.
Yeah.
So that's a social burden as well as an unmet need. So if we can target that population by giving them their own stem cells, they can get off the hook from opioids. That's a big deal.
Wow.
So that's where the government is focused on, I mean FDA. And that's why they're priming up more towards, and we are in the right place at the right time.
So exciting.
Yep.
Yeah, I want to somehow get on the insider list.
Absolutely.
We actually very much hope that it will take you quite some time to get to the point of experiencing pain.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, I'm into it for the preventative part. I mean, I actually do feel pain when I'm running. I haven't, run regularly for quite some time. And I know that that's, a factor of the cartilage in my knee.
Absolutely.
Is there a point where, as you get older, your stem cells are also getting older, or is it, become not so good? So
right.
I should really be thinking about banking my stem cells now. Is there a way to do that?
Yeah, there is. Yeah, there is a way to bank your source, the fat tissue, that can be frozen, and then cells can be extracted at the point where it needs to be applied, or you can extract cells today and bank them. Again, see, the bottom line is that it's not, age is a factor. It doesn't mean that at whatever age group you are, if your cells can be extracted and properly applied for a specific medical indication, you'll still be an effective treatment. For example, with aging, the potency of your cells slows down, right? So then what will be done is not, for example, 500,000 cells will be applied in a single dose, but you'll need to have 1.5 million cells applied in a single dose. So you might need to have 3 injections as opposed to 1 injection. What I wanted to spend literally a couple of seconds on is back to Ministem on how do we address the practical aspect.
Yeah.
Just to give you,
please,
to provide a simple example. So today, if you would walk to orthopedic doctor's office with the complaint that your knee bothers you.
Mm-hmm.
It hurts. You cannot run. You cannot perform your physical activities the way you used to. What you'll be offered is initially the painkillers, the pills, with certain type of side effects. Because especially when it comes to addressing your joint pain, most of the treatments that are available today in therapeutic form or in pills have substantial side effects.
Mm-hmm.
They affect liver, they affect different organs. Then if that doesn't work, the next step will be to inject the steroids, cortisone, for example.
Right.
The drawback of steroid is that while it's suppressing the inflammation, it actually destroys your cartilage tissue. That's why you'll be given maximum 2 or 3 injections per year.
Mm.
And the effect of the steroid injection varies between 3 and 6 months if it actually works for you. It doesn't mean that it's a cure and it's by default will function to control the pain. Then the next step, and you'll be kept on those just to manage your pain to the point where you'll be qualified for the joint replacement, because to replace the joint, the insurance company will require for you to be at the specific age group, because it's an extra expense for them. Plus, as Nishit had mentioned, that you need to, if the joint has been replaced, then that replaced joint will need to be again replaced in 15 or 20 years. We do understand that segment of the industry is improving as well, and they make it better, so it won't be 15, it'll be 20 years in let's say 10 years. All that puts you through the journey of pain.
Yes.
And the expense that associated with that. In case with the stem cells, if you would walk into the orthopedic doctor today and ask him for the stem cells, he'd be happy to offer that treatment to you, provided that there is a proper compliance with the regulatory aspect. But also there is a practical aspect of the issue, and that is for the orthopedic doctor to extract stem cells, he'll need to build a lab setup. Which is a substantial capital expense. It's between $200,000 and $300,000. He needs to build a lab. He needs to acquire the certificate, which is compliance with the regulatory aspect, and he'll also need to hire the personnel, which are biologists that understand the protocol of extracting cells from, in our particular case, from fat tissue.
Mm-hmm.
That's what prevents many doctors from offering the cell therapies to patients today, because doctors cannot afford this level of capital expense. In case with stem cells, all this lab and infrastructure is sucked into a disposable device.
Really?
So now when you walk into a doctor's office, orthopedic doctor office, then doctor will offer you to cell injection. It'll be way easier for the doctor to extract your cells and apply them. We're talking about a process that is in inpatient form, inpatient care, right?
Outpatient.
It's outpatient care. Mm-hmm. So it takes about an hour and a half to collect the fat tissue from you, to process that fat tissue and extract the cell fraction and inject that. So between an hour and a half and 2 hours, you walk away with the treatment being applied to you. That's a practical aspect of how it will look when we'll get to that point.
How far into the future is that practical application? If you were just going to guess, I mean, I know, it's not going to be tomorrow, but you're not here because it's going to be in 100 years. Mm-hmm. So what's the gap?
So we're working on 2 parallel things right now. With the device, we are getting it approved for fat extraction, right? So like for fat grafts and stuff. We are getting it approved within the next 6 months, right? We are already putting the file together. It's called a 510K medical device application. On the therapeutic side of what Felix is mentioning, as with the RMAT, which is the new designation, we are hoping to apply within the year of 2018, and it doesn't, depending on what feedback the FDA gives, it could be less than 2 years until therapy.
Wow. And then what about nervous system injuries? Will you guys like paralysis or constant pain? Will you guys be able to deal with that?
Not that we are targeting it right now, because what we would like to do is stay locally focused, right? Say like joints and all that kind of stuff. This would be more, entering a more systemic approach, which would take, further studies on what these cells do, and because right now we want to stay in that very localized zone of where we can treat joints as well as aesthetic treatments.
What about back injuries in general, though? Like stenosis is too much bone. Can it deal with something like that where it opens up that channel?
No. So I want to take these as cues. So it's technically not a miracle cure for everything. So let's not misguide ourselves as well as the general public that it's a cure for everything, which it's not, right? Because there's a number of indications which will not be touched upon by stem cells. So we want to stay very focused, and based on the literature, the scientific literature that people have already studied, that what stem cells can do. This is absolutely, we want to target that.
As what about trauma? Like if someone is in a car accident, is there going to be like we're going to shoot stem cells here, 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 and here?
So as I said, we are not targeting that now. Maybe, using the device, some other researcher or some other company might come up and increase the indications, because now when you have a regulated device, everybody's free to, and that's what exactly we are also doing. We are working with partner companies who are developing other therapies, but are using our device to get those cells for these different patients. So
and the reason why I ask is in part for the audience, because there's a lot of people experiencing a lot of problems, and they're like, they want a solution. They're desperate, and they hear about stem cells, and we're talking about a lot of incredible things, but it is good to set expectations on those things.
Absolutely.
And for the social aspect, so essentially with our product, which is the device and the therapeutic product down the road, what we're trying to address is the simple factor of, I've came across a number of patients that are in their 60 or 70 or even 80 years of age, and they told me that we've set a certain amount of money on the side. We're just waiting for the stem cell therapy to become accessible, because they're saying that the surgery is the last option that they consider, and they're trying to avoid it for as long as they can.
What kinds of surgeries, like hip replacement?
Hip, shoulder, knee, and such. So the patients themselves are starting to understand that there will be a solution.
That's exciting for them, rather, to know that a solution is on the horizon that won't be, so drastic.
What pushes them today is to travel abroad.
To the Cayman Islands.
To different locations where there is a different level of care for the patients and such. So that puts them to a certain level of risk on certain points. So our objective is to make cell therapy with our products accessible here in the U.S.
Right.
Where you can just walk into a doctor's office, the infrastructure will be sitting next to your blood pressure device, and cell therapy will be offered as a given thing. So,
what's the price point going to be of these devices?
The therapeutics would be in the few thousands, right? So it's not going to be, at least at our end, we're not trying to make it too expensive to not be accessible to the common man, because
so one of your devices in every doctor's offices, orthopedic doctor's offices.
Absolutely. Absolutely. As Felix rightly said, you would walk in and just say, this is what doctor thinks will benefit you, and within 2 hours you have your own stem cell injection.
Hey everybody, Pete A. Turner, co-host of Popping the Bubble. This episode is sponsored by us over here at Lions Rock Productions. What do we do? Content management strategy. We'll help you create podcasts, develop strategies, consult on what you've got. If you want to take a look at content, we would love to have an opportunity to do that for you. Now let's get back to Popping the Bubble.
Yeah, but we're also envisioning that once we'll get through the properly regulatory pattern, and again, we're talking about the therapeutic aspect, not the device aspect, but therapeutic aspect, then most of the insurance companies will pick up on the subject of reimbursing for that expense. Because for the insurance company, it's a given thing. Every time the joint gets replaced, it's about $50,000 to an insurance company. So if they can cover something that costs a couple of $1,000s in the early cycle of the issue, they will save a substantial amount of money to themselves.
So exciting. But what have been some of the surprises that you've found along the entrepreneurial journey you've been on as you've been working on this project?
Surprise?
Yeah?
No,
I mean, a lot of challenges, of course.
Okay.
A lot of initial pushback from doctors who did not understand what the stem cell field in general is about. So, but I mean, we've passed through those challenges, and now we feel the market is priming up, basically. I mean, everybody understands this is the need of the hour, and if you can bring something credible to the market, I think people and doctors are ready to take it.
But from the practical point of trying to build of being the entrepreneur, So essentially, how does any good or bad idea start?
Mm-hmm.
With excitement.
Yes.
I think I found something that the world needs. Then everyone is excited, and you actually get on the pattern of following this journey. And then you hit the wall and get the cold shower that the reality is not as exciting as the initial expectations are, right? So you're starting to face a list of issues that you need to address, then the list of problems that you need to overcome. So the combination of these things makes this journey tough and exciting at the same time. Being lucky is a factor as well.
Mm-hmm.
You never know where the route will take you. At the end of the day, if you can address what it takes, not what you can. What you can is not enough. What it takes. If you'll have power and gas to get to the point where the value will be created, then you'll be a winner. If not, then
absolutely, and it's for the benefit of the patients. That's the prime goal. That if even if it benefits 5 people, 10 people, it's a job well done, basically.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, looking at you guys, you seem like you're both mature. You have some experience in the real world. You're not founders that just came out of school. Mm-hmm. Let's put it that way, right?
Absolutely.
What do you think are some of the advantages that you bring to the table, or how have you felt?
As a team?
Yeah, that the Silicon Valley, which is very much enamored by the programmer that drops out of Stanford, right? That how do you feel that
So to give you a little perspective on this company, Nathan, who's not here today, he's the CEO, and it was his brainchild to develop this device, right? And Felix and he started the company. I joined in later. As for us, of course, being here is everything happened in Chicago so far, right? The labs were in Chicago. All the development went there. But of course, to be here within Silicon Valley and within the entrepreneurial world, within the VC world, it's absolute must that you have to be here if you want to really go take the next step. So here we are. We are absolutely excited on bringing this device to market within the next 6 to 8 months, and the therapeutic part of it, which will add on to the device within the next 1 year or 2. And from my side, I'm more towards developing the clinical strategies on what would fit for this device, and where we can target, and communicating with the doctors and hospital setups. So that's been my contribution.
Yeah.
I've been on Nathan since we were 12. We went to school together back in Russia, right?
Oh, in Russia.
Correct.
Awesome.
Correct. So then he immigrated to Israel. I immigrated to the U.S. And at some point, he called me and said, "Listen, I'm coming to the USA." Then when he came over, and he was involved with the stem cells at that point, he said, "Listen, my mother is struggling with orthopedic indication, with osteoarthritis," and he said, "I know so many people personally that are going through the same cycle. They have issues with their joints. I have the preliminary understanding of how that issue can be addressed using the stem cells." He told me that, to my knowledge, you have some understanding in the business side. Why don't we put our minds together? And this is how JointechLabs was born. So initially, we focused on developing the actually therapeutic application. But then at some point while doing that, we've reached a milestone where we understood that the raw material for any cell therapy is not addressed. And that's when we shifted our focus towards that particular function. So we've accomplished that now. We have the product, we have the device, we're going through the regulatory approval. In the meantime, we actually got back to the original pattern of developing the therapeutic applications for the stem cells. And interesting enough, when we just started doing that 8 years ago, when we've talked to the doctors community about stem cells, they did not understand what it is. For every orthopedic doctor, the best thing there was to replace the joint.
Right.
If you'll attend the conference of orthopedic doctors today, between 50 and 75% of content on the conference is the regenerative medicine. And it's actually speeding up exponentially, the perception of the fact that regenerative medicine is the solution to the problems.
So as I said, we are at the right place, right time. It's priming up.
That's really great to hear.
You're right about the doctor thing, especially orthopedists. They're in the general sense, they're mechanics.
Mhm.
And they know, like, we replace this part. We work on trying to repair this part. And so they don't sit on the edge of where the technology is, because their work is right in the middle of the body, like making this knee work today, right now, with what I've got. Same thing with your peers, Prellis, who are going to be printing organs. You know, all the people that work on those problems, they're like, no, that's not possible. That's some other day.
Right.
Today, right now, I've got to put you on dialysis. We've got to have you on insulin pumps or whatever it's going to be. So it's neat to see the future colliding with the now so quickly. Because I know doctors that look and they go, that's not true. And they're right. It's not true today. But that's where they work, you know. So it's neat to be able to hear you guys talking about what's about to happen. Because Sandra and I, we're allowed to go, oh yeah, that's here. Like, that's happening. You guys are actually working on the problem right now. It's neat. And I'd like to thank everybody from humanity, like, to thank you guys, because I don't know, for whatever reason, we have all these conversations that are like changing humanity in general. So yeah, we all thank you.
Absolutely.
All of us everywhere that have sore somethings, you know, backs, knees, shoulders, or whatever. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. I know you guys are focused on one specific thing, but just that one thing is enormous.
And understanding of that comes with life experience and with maturity. Because essentially, while you are in the millennials category, right, while you are in your 20s or early 30s.
You're not in your 20s?
I am, but I'm trying to look into the future. So
yes, so you can help me out.
Yeah. So essentially, what becomes important for you is the mobile app on the phone, right? Something that is nice to have. But as people age, they hit the milestone where the priority of things that are important, they change.
Yeah.
And then at some point, you're starting to realize that your health and your pain or getting rid of pain is way more important than the mobile app. So the reason why I'm bringing that thing is that very point is there are certain things that are nice to have, and there are certain things that are absolutely must. And we're very excited that we're in a segment that addresses the absolutely must problems.
Yeah.
Or solutions to the absolutely must issues. So that's exciting.
We appreciate you guys coming on Popping the Bubble with us. Sandra and I have been here all day at IndieBio, and it's been fascinating hearing from you guys, all of your peers, and it's just such a rewarding experience for all of us. We get to hear it again. We get to talk to you guys more, and we always want to hear back from you guys as you progress along the way. So please feel like this is your platform here with us, and know that we're excited about the future. Anything you always want to say in closing at all?
Well, we would like to thank you, first of all, for having us on Popping the Bubble. It's great to get out a story like this, you know, because we're working in labs and, you know, working with professionals don't need, you know, essentially get their opportunities. But definitely, you know, this is something that we are really excited to bring out to the market. And I'm sure it will help a lot of people, friends, families who are dealing with pain right now.
How do folks find out more about you? Where do they go?
We have a website, www.JointechLabs.com, or we are here at IndieBio, so anybody wants to know, and through your channels, you know, please, you know, advertise us that we are bringing this to the market. As soon as we're approved, we'll go out there in full strength and start selling this.
And one of the things that I might recommend for the listeners to do is to, next time when they have an issue with pain in their joint, they go to their orthopedic doctor and ask him or her, can you do the stem cell therapy?
Yeah, great idea.